I forgot exactly what I was going to say. We're going to talk about a lot today on the show, including whether or not Jason Kidd could be the next head coach of the New York Knicks. Plus, Adam Silver had this to say when it came to the Mavericks and the lottery. All that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Curl. We, of course, are DLLS Mavs. Appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday afternoon. Could Jason Kidd be the next head coach of the New York Knicks? A lot to get into with the reported interest from New York after they fired their head coach yesterday, and Tom Thibodeau. Our national NBA insider Marc Stein will be joining us at 12:30 to go over all things with the Mavericks head coach. Plus, Adam Silver had this to say when it came to the Mavericks and winning the lottery. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you're here. Do the same for our podcast, wherever you get your podcast for free. Tim Cato, what's going on?
What was it that Adam said? Was it, I rigged it?
Not quite, Marc Stein.
He
Not
finally
quite.
came clean.
Oh, man.
Classic Sting Lover right off the rip, $1.99 super chat. Thank you. When is the Wings pod? Is it today or tomorrow? The Wings pod this week is actually going to be on Friday.
Oh, look at that.
Some schedule stuff. So it will be on Friday, 3 p.m. Central. I believe Thursday is going to be the day that we do it every week moving forward, but this week we had to do it on Friday. So Friday, 3 p.m. Central.
Oh, mini pregame show because the Wings play the Sparks in Arlington on
Will
Friday
they
night.
win ever again?
Will Paige be back, damn it. Now will Paige Beckers be back from her concussion. So Friday, make sure you tune in for the DLLS Wing Show. Bobby Corella, what's going on? How we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. It's rumor season. It's speculation season.
Boy.
It's coach moving, coach carousel season. There's a lot to get into today.
The Recky Specky Kavanaugh abounds in the NBA. That's right. A lot of it that we'll get to.
I believe that's a Bobby Corella invention. I want to say that.
Kavanaugh was
For
over
as much
there.
as you hate me shortening words, Recky Specky is one that's stuck.
That
It's
one
more
has
like
stuck.
Recky Sticky.
Recky
Some
Sticky.
sticky specky.
Oh, some sticky Recky Specky. Got it. Say that 10 times fast.
That's right.
That's right, Kat. That's right. Let's get
I
into
don't condone any of this, just for the record.
Just for the record. Appreciate that. Let's get into it today because we got a lot to talk about. Let's start with Adam Silver, the NBA's commissioner, making his media rounds as the NBA Finals get kicked off tomorrow night, where the Oklahoma City Thunder will host the Indiana Pacers in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Finals will tip off at 7:30 p.m. Tomorrow night. We're going to be watching on ABC, and had some things to say when it came to the Mavericks, of course, who won the NBA draft lottery with the draft taking place on June 25th. The Mavericks do have the number 1 pick and presumably are going to take Cooper Flagg. So with that being said, Adam Silver, your thoughts on the Mavericks winning the lottery and what it means for the lottery going forward, but also what the Mavericks were able to get this season. Take a listen.
One reminder.
So Adam Silver appearing on Breakfast Ball on FS1 earlier this morning, discussing the Mavericks, of course, winning the lottery and what took place as they were able to secure that spot. Your reaction, gentlemen, to the NBA commissioner, what he had to say there.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually pretty obvious when you read between the lines that he did say he rigged it. That was the nonverbal communication. If you watch his eyes are saying, "I've rigged it." His words are saying other things, roughly 2%, rounding up. Of course he is.
Indeed.
I don't know. I mean, it's exactly what I'd expect Adam Silver to say. As I've said on this podcast before, I think that a lot of people struggle with probabilities. 2% means it happens a lot. There's a lot. Something that has a 2% chance odds of happening to you happens to you every single day of your life.
I think it. I've never been a huge tank guy except for in like very situational circumstances. Like, okay, you're not going to make the playoffs, so like, why are you trying to win? Like, and it's March, or you have a top 5 protected pick and you're 6th. You should probably do what you can to keep that pick.
Dallas throwing 2 games in 2023.
Exactly, yeah, to keep that top 10 pick, which luckily they did, and it ended up working out great for them. Imagine if that hadn't happened. But he's right. You have a 14% chance. You could be the worst team in the league. You have an 86% chance to not get the number 1 pick. And you have a really, really good chance to not even get a top 2 pick. And oftentimes you have a pretty good chance to not even get a top 4 pick or a top 3 pick. In the NBA, there's pretty good teams, there's some fine teams, and there's a lot of bad teams. You have to be so bad to be the worst team in the league.
You have to try.
You have to go out of your way to be the worst team. And it's like at what cost? And what do you get from it? You get an 86% chance of not getting the guy that you want. Now, I also respect, just like in the early 2010s, whenever the Mavs just every summer they were just going after big name free agents, and they were failing, and it became a meme at that point. But like, I was able to kind of talk myself into it, because I do believe if you don't have a top 10 player, you're probably not winning the title. Like, it's just that's a thing that's historically been true about the NBA. You have to have one of those guys, and the best way to get one of those guys is to get the number 1 pick, because 9 times out of 10, those guys are taking number 1, or certainly in the top 3. And so you got to do what you can to get one of them, but you have to be so outrageously horrible to just have a chance at the number 1 pick in the old way, that even if you get that guy, you're still going to suck, and then that guy's going to demand a trade. You're going to be like the Hornets, who are terrible. They have Lonzo Ball and they have Brandon Miller. Neither of those guys was number 1, but they're both taken in the top 3. And the Hornets are never going to be good ever again. Like, in our lives, they will never make the play because they're so bad. The Sixers, the process Sixers, were terrible despite getting top picks year after year after year after year. They were never better. Like, there's just no point anymore in trying to be that intentionally bad. You could be the 10th best team, or the 14th best team, or the 5th best team, and still get the number 1 pick now. So like, you can still be bad, but like, you can try and be good now and still end up failing upward. So I think it's just, there's no reason to just outright tank anymore.
I think the really tricky thing is that because the NBA has 5 players on the court, because basketball is a sport with 5 players, the importance of having the best player, having one of the best players, is so amplified. I do think that tanking has a unique, it's very unique to basketball. The way, it's unique to North American sports, because the draft and collegiate athletics is a very North American thing. But I think it also has a very unique relationship to just to basketball overall. At the same time, it's true that there's a lot of recent title winners.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of recent champions. A lot of recent champions who have number 1 picks. There's a lot of recent champions who have top 5 players who are not number 1 picks. I think what's really tricky is that when you look at the Denver Nuggets, maybe not even the Denver Nuggets, that's a tough scenario. When you look at the Warriors with Steph Curry, certainly their 2022 win did not have KD, so did not have a top 3 pick. When you look at
hey, don't disrespect Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, seriously.
Andrew Wiggins was the number 1 overall pick.
Was Wiseman still on the team at that point?
I believe so.
Yeah.
No?
When you look at the Bucks, who have Giannis, when you look at the Lakers are an example, or not an example, but you look at the Raptors, they went and acquired Kawhi, but Kawhi was not, he was a lottery pick, but he was not a top 10 pick. The other really tricky thing is that Kawhi, especially Giannis, these are players who are developmental swings at superstar upside. And so if you're a team in the lottery, even if you're picking 10 or 11, kind of what you are incentivized to do is to take players who might be busts, take players who might not pan out, who might not be superstars. And then even if you're not getting, the most talented player in the draft, you are kind of spinning the wheels on, we're going to go high risk, high reward. And so you could not tank. You could pick 10, 11, several years in a row, and you could just miss on all these, because it is more likely if you're taking high risk, high reward, high ceiling, low floor players than the late lottery. That's where a lot of these guys go. You're definitely taking a risk on all the reasons that they fell to that range. So it's like, Yeah, the easiest way to win in the NBA is to get the number one pick, and especially in a good year, which more years are good than
That's not the easiest way to win. The easiest way to win is to get a really good player and then also build a good team around him. And that's the thing. Like a team like Utah, for example, let's say Utah would have got Cooper Flagg. Their team sucks. They won 14 games or something. Like they would not be good ever. They'll be bad for his entire rookie contract. And then as soon as he gets that max extension, it's going to be, oh, he's looking to New York. Oh, he's from Maine. Maybe he'd like to go play for the Celtics. You know, like that's how bad teams stay bad, because they go out of their way to be bad. Then they finally have a chance to be good, but they can't be good because they've been so bad. And it creates a losing environment, which festers and infects everybody, makes you all sick. You get all sores all over your body. Looks disgusting. It's like a leper colony. You don't want to be that.
Right.
You don't want no part of that.
Right. And if Washington, who had the worst odds, Utah, who had the worst odds, like these teams who had the worst odds this year, they had got one in Cooper Flagg, that absolutely transforms the franchise. That's not really the case if you get Dylan Harper. Even if the odds get you to number 2, there's still a chance that Dylan Harper takes a couple years to get to the level that he's going to get to. The level he gets to might be Darius Garland. Darius Garland is an awesome player. Top 20, top 25 at his best in the NBA. That's not a franchise transforming player. So I don't know. It's just hard. It's just really hard. Everything is cyclical, and you know, I agree that it does seem like good teams are just good teams. Good franchises are good franchises, and more often good franchises operating the right way, it seems to work out for. I know statistically, with the way the lottery works, it isn't necessarily reinforced by the percentages, but it is reinforced by history.
I mean, and the couple things when it comes to all this, honestly, I mean, the draft is always a crapshoot because you never know what these players are going to ultimately pan out to be. I mean, you use the example of the Denver Nuggets, for example. Nikola Jokic was a second-round pick in the 40s, and it turned out to be one of the 5 best players in the league over the last 6-7 years.
That's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, though.
I mean, probably would have been a first-rounder if he hadn't drafted and stashed, if he had waited a year or two.
I guess that's
the craziest thing. I had forgot until yesterday that he stayed an extra year in Europe.
Yeah,
that was his breakout.
The point being is you never know what some of these players are going to be, whether they are taking number 1, taking number 5, or number 41. The question is, what kind of situation will these players eventually be in, and can they develop to be the kind of players that eventually help your franchise? And that is always a question when it comes to the draft. But to your point earlier, Bobby, I mean, this is kind of what Adam Silver wanted, the idea of flattening out the odds to de-incentivize the idea of tanking, that if you're going to continue to try to go for it, you may be rewarded for it by quote-unquote doing the right thing, which is continuing to try and win. And the idea that folks will say, well, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively II, Daniel Gafford, bashing the idea of them coming back, but it actually helping the Mavericks. I think my point personally was I didn't necessarily want to see the idea of them risking further injury for a season that appeared to be lost already. Not necessarily the idea of, hey, keep them out so you get a better draft pick, because we saw just a year ago that Atlanta was a team that was in the top 10 and found their way getting all the way up to number 1 to win the NBA draft lottery. So it was more so about what the team was in terms of the situation. But yeah, this is in a lot of ways what Adam Silver wanted, flattening out the odds, de-incentivize tanking, and we'll see who gets the odds to win the lottery. And for the first time ever, the Mavericks were able to move up, not just move up, but also win the lottery. So in a lot of ways, it worked out the way he wanted it to.
But it's a situational thing, right? Like Lively was coming back from a broken bone in his foot. Like that's a pretty serious thing. Don't rush back, dude. Like, what are you going to rush back for?
They had already rushed.
You're going to need surgery. What are you rushing back for? Yeah, you know, and also, I mean, you know, so I was a little mad. And again, if they would have made the playoffs, they would have got swept by OKC, and they would not have Cooper Flagg, and this would suck. Everybody would be miserable, you know. So like, we were trying to avoid that inevitability. But you know, the reason situational tanking is better than like planned intentional tanking is Utah sucked for a whole year. You know, we thought it would be good. It would behoove the Mavs to suck for like 2 weeks. There's a difference. Like you can build a pretty good team and then kind of be like, well, I don't know, and then be bad for a month. You have to build a horrible team in order to be bad for 82 games. And it is very hard to dig yourself out of that hole quickly. Very, very hard.
What's tough with Utah, though, is like for 2 years, they're like, we're going to do this ethically. And then they got to March, kind of like you said, and they're like, okay, now we're going to be bad. And then they finally try to be bad for a year. They actually commit to that, and they're bad. And
they wind up with the number 5 pick.
It's
when you're terrible like that, no free agents want to go there. It's Utah anyway, so like you have to make it a better situation. Who would ever want to go to a team that won 14 games? No one, ever.
Not on purpose. Not on purpose. Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, what are the pros and cons of Jason Kidd potentially taking the job with the New York Knicks or staying here with the Dallas Mavericks? We'll get into all that coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But first, I want to put some money in your pocket, and I want to do that when it comes to Cash App. Cash App is a safe, easy, and fast way to send, receive, and transfer money to family and friends. You just enter your phone number, email, and you don't necessarily need a bank account to get started either. There's no waiting around. It's your money, and you should get it when you're ready to have it, and you shouldn't have to wait for it. When it comes to Cash App, it's also secure and safe. You're about to send money to a sketchy account potentially. Cash App will send you an alert letting you know that, hey, this might be a scam. You might not want to necessarily take care of that when it comes to sending your money. For a limited time, when it comes to Cash App, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. There's no catch. This is actually for real. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code DLLS Mavs in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. That's right. Send a friend $5. You get $10 instantly in your bank account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App.
Stars fans, basketball fans, hockey fans, really fans of human fans.
Beer fans?
Any fans of beer and good times. Hey, there's no better beer to have a good time with than our friends at Bud Light. There's plenty of games going. Game 1 of the Cup final tonight. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tomorrow night. Enjoying the game should be easy, so don't overthink it. Just throw on your favorite jersey. If you're mad at your team for losing, maybe don't throw on their jersey. Maybe throw on some DLLS gear. Don't overthink it. Don't know what to serve your friends? Easy. Pick up some pizza. Boom. Fill up your fridge with some beer and make that beer a Bud Light. Fill up your beer with Bud Light, guys. It's that easy, just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean, crisp taste. It's Bud Light. It's easy to drink, even easier to enjoy, and enjoy responsibly. You must be 21 or older. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light beer, made in St. Louis, Missouri.
Appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Coming up in our next segment, we'll be joined by our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, as we dial up the Stein line when it comes to the latest on the New York Knicks head coaching search, which could involve, gentlemen, Dallas Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd. Our very own Marc Stein reporting late last night that after the Knicks fired head coach Tom Thibodeau after 5 seasons, the Knicks could be interested in both Dallas Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd and Rockets head coach Ime Udoka. Now, since the last of that reporting, multiple reports have shown that Ime Udoka is not going to be a candidate for that job because the Rockets are going to be like, you're not going to be able to talk to our guy. We got a good thing going down here in Houston. So, gentlemen, what does that mean potentially for Jason Kidd, who, of course, has 2 years left on his current contract with the Dallas Mavericks, has the number 1 pick coming in Cooper Flagg, but also a very enticing situation in New York City where there's a lot of folks that he knows that he could potentially work with. Tim Cato, I'll start with you.
I think I'd still be surprised, maybe even shocked, if Jason Kidd isn't the Dallas Mavericks coach next season. I think that as interesting as it is that his name has surfaced in connection with the Knicks job, with Thibodeau being fired, headed out, I still think that is the likeliest outcome, maybe the overwhelmingly likeliest outcome. And we'll see what Stein says on the next segment. I'm very curious to hear. Certainly we have not conferred on it or anything. I don't think any of us have. Very curious for his perspective. But the fact that Jason Kidd's name is surfacing is not nothing. It's not without merit. It's not just for clicks, or it's not without some backstory to it. And the backstory is that in April, after the season, I was one of several, maybe one of the only people to report that there had been speculation, there had been chatter about whether he was going to stay with the Dallas with the Dallas Mavericks next season. Inside the Mavericks, Nico Harrison decision, which might be more complicated than it seems. April 21st, 2025 on alldlls.com. There's some details in here about Jason Kidd and just a lot of chatter that he's often his MO is to look for situations that are good, that make sense. And although Dallas's situation certainly changed with Cooper Flagg, and that is undeniable, that is very clear, there was a lot of speculation whether Jason Kidd was happy in Dallas. Some people pointed at that press conference that he skipped. Certainly that was a moment of frustration. It was, I believe, the same night that Daniel Gafford went down in just a crisis of injuries. So, there's a lot of reasons for a head coach to be frustrated in that situation. But specifically, it was pointed out to me as, just as an example of an ongoing month-long frustration, just series of frustrations from Jason Kidd about how the season was unfolding, that the Luka trade happened mid-season. Not necessarily saying that, he never would have done it or, wanted no part of it. Just that having it happen mid-season made his job very difficult. Certainly, all the injuries was something very difficult to navigate. So the buzz has been out there. The chatter has been out there. The speculation about, him potentially looking at different jobs, people noting to me what franchises he had and what ownership groups he had good relationships with, about, potential series and carousels of coaching changes that, maybe could end up including Jason Kidd. This has been something that has been the talk and the chatter of the NBA behind the scenes for some time now. At no point was it ever, more likely, more certain than not that Jason Kidd would be moving on. I think the scenario has always been likely is that a man with, $20 million left on his contract over the next 2 years was going to stay in Dallas one way or the other. But it's interesting that his name has come up again. It's interesting that these conversations, that these discussions keep happening. And I just think it's notable. I think his name would come up for a few reasons. One, if a team thinks that he's potentially gettable. Two, if the team thinks that he'd be a good fit. And three, if they think he's a good coach. Gettability, I guess, is up to him and the Mavs. The Mavs have the right to say, no, you can't talk to him. They can also say, sure, talk to him. And then if Kidd wants to go, whatever. There are reasons to believe, for basketball reasons, that Kidd wouldn't be super stoked to be here, but getting the number one pick does certainly help the future, giving you a runway and also your ability to compete this season. As far as good fit, obviously he's coached Jalen Brunson, seemingly has a really good relationship with him, knows Casey Smith extremely well, and then several other people within that organization he knows very well. And as far as whether he's a good coach, I think J. Kidd is a fine coach. I think he's a pretty good coach. Is good at some things, and other areas maybe not as much. Who is flawless? I guess if we put that question to the chat, it'd be like 50-50 maybe. Some people would think, no, he sucks, get him out of here. Everyone else would be like, no, he's great, I like him. But pretty much every player that's ever come through here, with the exception of like Christian Wood, has had really good things to say about J. Kidd. So I'll side with them over Wood. No offense to my guy C. Wood. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's plenty of reasons to believe that he's a good and viable candidate. But that also means that you have a pretty good coach. If a team that's really good, that has a bunch of good players, that wants to win a title, wants your coach, it probably means your coach is kind of good. So like that's a good thing.
A few things to keep in mind as Bobby started to lay out some of the the reasons why a kid could potentially be a fit in New York. I mean, number one, he spent 6.5 seasons with the New Jersey Nets at the time. He finished his final year of his playing career with New York in the 2012-2013 season. The irony would be if he spurred the Mavericks to go back to New York like he did 13 years ago. It feels like it is 12, 13 years ago. But at the same time, there's also an interesting caveat to this as well that has to do with, as you like to say, some recky specky. What if you walk in a universe where the Knicks are like, hey, we want to go make a play for Giannis, and we think we could get him to New York if he reportedly wants to play in a big market. We know that Jason Kidd has a great relationship with Giannis, and Giannis loves Jason Kidd. So if you're New York, do you convince Jason Kidd, hey, we're going to try and go get Giannis to bring here as well to you to coach Jalen Brunson, Giannis, and another combination of New York? That could be something that you could keep in mind with that as well. But for me, honestly, when you look at the situation that he has here in Dallas, the number one overall pick, you do have Kyrie Irving, you do have Anthony Davis, but also you have a chance to go over to the Eastern Conference where there's only maybe 1-2 teams that you feel like could stand in your way in terms of getting to an NBA championship. Now, one of them already beat you in terms of the Indiana Pacers. Boston could be looking much different. The Cavaliers got knocked out in the second round of this year's postseason. So if you're Jason, you're looking around at the Eastern Conference, you may think my chances to get back to the NBA Finals quicker to win a championship may be a little bit
way
easier.
easier out there. It's a
in the
bad
East.
conference. That is a bad conference.
Which, if you're kid, you think maybe I could go run the East for a few years with New York, and if you do get Giannis, you're in that much better of a position. So I think there's a lot of enticing aspects. You talked about some of the relationships as well that he has with folks in the organization. Competitive reasons wise, I think there's a lot that would be attractive for Kidd to look at if the Mavericks allowed him to talk to New York.
One caveat though is where if you're I don't even know if J Kidd would want to go do this, and I don't know if the Mavs will allow him. We're gonna have Stein on in 5 minutes and he'll let us know. But if I'm making a decision as a coach, right? Here's the deal about coaches. Job security is imaginary, but which situation would you have more security? You look at what Kidd has done here. He's missed the playoffs twice. He's gone to a conference finals, been to a finals. His job does not seem like it's in doubt or in peril. Maybe it is. I don't know. Tibbs has been the Knicks' best head coach in like 30 years or more. Just went to the conference finals and got canned. So, like, what is the expectation if you go to New York and you don't win a title in 2 years? Are you done? Like, he could probably be the coach in Dallas as long as he wants, as long as he doesn't get cross with anyone, like it seems like you got more security here. So that is something to consider.
I mean, the guy that hired him the guy that is his boss now didn't hire him. Mark Cuban was the one that hired Jason Kidd at the time. So maybe he could look at Patrick Dumont and say, well, this guy isn't necessarily loyal to me.
You think Patrick Dumont's going to make a decision?
Look, we're just walking down how normal basketball thoughts would work. But you're right. I mean,
ain't nothing normal around here.
Exactly. But I mean, my point is there's no loyalty from Dumont necessarily to Jason Kidd in that case. There was from Cuban to Kidd when he hired him. And also the idea that your president and general manager walked into your bedroom an hour before the biggest trade in NBA history is like, hey, by the way, we're trading our franchise guy to the Lakers. And that's what's happening. You found out an hour before that happened. He says,
did he walk into his bedroom?
You know what I mean.
I was just trying to picture that. Like,
knock,
Patrick,
knock.
what are you doing here, man?
Knock, knock.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, Nico? We're trading Luka.
But
It's going down.
And that's also, is that really exactly how it went down?
We're just gonna go by what we know.
It's your job to find. Isn't it your job to find out?
Yeah, that's your job, beat writer.
My job's to be in the bedroom.
Yeah,
Just to be staked out.
Yeah.
I believe that.
That's right.
I believe that is called a crime. But
well, your job is to find the truth.
Juan Martinez says the Dallas job is safer in some theoretical ways. Yeah, it is. You got a longer runway with the number 1 pick of Cooper Flagg. That gives you a chance to maybe think that you could have a little bit more security in that way.
But coaches don't usually survive rebuilding errors. That's what made Rick's tenure in Dallas so notable, is that they were awful for a few years on purpose. Usually when that happens, a coach that's really good or really like highly thought of will get out of there, or he'll get canned to like save him the humiliation. And so he can go to a good situation, but Rick stuck it out. Not every coach is that patient, and not every GM is that patient either. So we'll see on the other side of the Kyrie AD era. We'll see what happens.
And do you want to live through that potential era? Rick Carlisle, as we look, it's funny we talking about Rick Carlisle. The more you think about how he exited here from Dallas and obviously was able to get to Indiana, sometimes it's better to get out early than it is too late. And maybe if you're Jason Kidd, you think about what could be down the road. You talk about all the time, no control of your picks from 27 through 30. If you don't get it necessarily turned around where you're competitive here in the next couple of years to get to a close position to be competing for a championship, you could be in that much more of a dire situation. But obviously you have Cooper Flagg to mitigate some of that going forward to keep in mind as well. So a lot for Jason Kidd to consider going forward here. We'll talk to our National NBA insider Marc Stein coming up here on the other side of the break when it comes to the latest on the Knicks coaching search, what it means for Jason Kidd, and more coming next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Just like they helped us. This Empire Today, this lovely Empire Today flooring just makes our day better every time. I told you guys a couple days ago I went and played a little basketball, been a little bit sore. I feel like it all drained away the moment I stepped on the Empire Today flooring. This is not in the ad copy, so I can't promise this, but it feels like to me it has medicinal qualities. Every time I put my feet upon it. Why is Empire Today your best bet for a new floor? It's because they live and breathe flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ballgame. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your house. You can pick out the right flooring and the right colors for the space. You can see how it looks with your furniture in your house. It's just a fantastic deal. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details.
Just like outside, your future is bright as well, and you can make sure that you are doing that when it comes to Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is the independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. Hundreds of options to choose from, and you're bound to find a perfect pair to match your style. They probably even have a pair in your team's favorite colors. Exclusively for our listeners here at DLLS, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Make sure you head to shadyrays.com. Use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Make sure you check out shadyrays.com today. Let's welcome in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein. You can dial up the Stein line at the Stein line, as we've got a lot to get
Mark
into.
got the memo today.
He did get the memo. Black
Tim,
hat,
though,
t-shirt,
not so
and all.
much.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I am still morally good, as opposed to these evil fellows
We are craven.
that you see on screen. I am the shining beacon of light.
Mark, what's going on? How we doing?
Talk for 30 more seconds and I'll be right there.
Dude, he's got a
wow.
sourcing text right now.
Sourcing texts and calls.
What kind of tea are you spilling, Mark?
Well, he's going to tell us here in 30 seconds.
Okay.
So he told us to talk for 30 seconds.
What kind of?
There is some new coaching news, though, that has already gone down today in the NBA. The Phoenix Suns have officially hired Jordan Ott as their next head coach. He will take over and join the other Michigan State alums that include Brian Gregory and their owner there, Matt Ishbia, to take over with that job. Obviously, a lot to get with Jason Kidd, but let's just start there in Phoenix with their new head coach and what they've got going on here.
Yeah, so there's only one vacancy now. It's the Knicks. Basically, the Suns, they started this thing by interviewing more than 15 candidates. There were, of course, 2 Mavs assistant coaches in the process, Sean Sweeney and Jared Dudley. They went from 15 candidates to 8 or 9 candidates to 5 or 6 candidates. They finally got to a final 2 of Jordan Ott and Johnny Bryant, both from the Cavaliers. And as soon as I'm done here, I am teleporting to the PHNX show, Southwest Bias, with our guy Espo, because they are not happy in the desert to see that yet another coach with someone else with Michigan State ties has been hired by the Suns. So I have a feeling that will be a lively appearance.
I know it makes Mavs fans very sad to see Suns fans upset. I know it's a tough day in Mavs land.
The Phoenix Suns pulling.
I told you guys. I keep saying it. We need technology that, like on the original Star Trek, we can all conference in with each other, and like the PHNX squad can be on the screen at the same time all of us are on, and we can kind of go back and forth. Somebody needs to invent that.
Well, it feels like the Phoenix Suns are trying to pull their version of the New York Knicks by hiring, just a bunch of Michigan State folks over there, much like how the Knicks got a bunch of Villanova Wildcats running around in New York City, which is where we go to next, obviously in New York, where the Knicks yesterday fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau, after 5 years. The Knicks making the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since the year 2000 apparently wasn't good enough for Leon Rose and James Dolan, as Tibbs is on his way out. Could Jason Kidd be on his way in New York when it comes to their head coaching vacancy?
Okay, so last night I heard you guys talk about this in the last segment. Last night I reported league sources say the Knicks do have interest in both Jason Kidd and Ime Udoka from Houston, 2 unavailable coaches. So when I checked it out on the Rockets side, I was told emphatically there is no way the Rockets would grant permission for the Knicks to speak with Ime Udoka if that request comes. The same is expected in Dallas. If the Knicks lodge that request to speak to Jason Kidd, the expectation is that the request would be denied. But I checked it out in as many different places as I could, and it was not conveyed to me as emphatically. So I can already hear Bobby's voice saying, "You're telling me there's a chance?" And I don't think so. I really don't expect it. If the Knicks formally take that step, I wouldn't expect it to be granted, but I also cannot rule it out as strongly as I was able to in the Rockets case. With the Rockets, it was emphatic that if that call came, the Rockets ain't having it. But I also heard the way you guys covered this, and look, I guess, Tim has talked about it, and there has been this chatter, and people have asked me for weeks. I don't get the sense that Jason Kidd was looking around at anything else. I do expect him to be the coach of this team next season, and even before you bring in the Cooper Flagg factor, and obviously this job got infinitely more attractive again on May 12th when the Mavs won the lottery. Jason Kidd is the coach that Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving both want. And so, I can't imagine, if the Mavs are going to have those guys on their team, they're going to want Jason Kidd to be the coach of the team.
Would Jalen Brunson want Jason Kidd as his head coach?
I think there is a very strong working relationship there. They got along famously well in their one season together. And I do think that is the reason why you're hearing Jason Kidd's name, because the presumption is that he would have the Jalen Brunson seal of approval. But look, let's play it out the other way. Let's pretend that this could somehow happen. There would have to be some level of compensation. We've seen that before, that when teams want coaches who are under contract with other teams, they would have to furnish the team with some level of compensation as well. So, I mean, there would be complications even if this was a possibility. But, I mean, to me, the more important thing here is that, the Knicks' interest is legit. And look, Jason Kidd got a contract extension one round into last season's march to the NBA Finals. The timing of that was sparked in part because the Mavericks knew the Lakers were going to come after Jason Kidd. They were going to try to hire him before they went after Dan Hurley and JJ Redick. Jason Kidd was very high on their list, and had he been available, I'm sure the Lakers would have tried to hire him. So even though he is under contract, he's still getting interest from these other places.
Well, Mark, I'm looking at New York's future draft assets, and I see here the Knicks are owed a top 10 protected pick from the Wizards next year. How convenient. If it doesn't convey, it becomes a second-round pick in 2026 and 2027. So we'd start there, and I would also say I would ask of the Knicks that we get monthly pizza parties in any J-Kidd trade. And if they will not concede that, then it's no deal. What do you think?
I actually thought you were going to ask for Brunson back. That's where I thought you were going. And
I told Kat that earlier. I was like, only one of those guys is going to the Hall of Fame, and the Knicks are getting the Hall of Famer. So if anything, I mean, they should give a little more than just Brunson.
You don't think JB is going to be Hall of Famer?
I do not believe Jalen Brunson's a Hall of Famer.
No.
It's basketball Hall of Fame.
Give us some time.
He won two college titles, so that is interesting.
It's a totality of the basketball career.
Yeah, but no international career, no playoff
does
success.
34 though.
Maybe.
Also, there's no guarantee he's not going to have
He's
an
made
international career.
One All-Star team or two All-Star teams?
He's made all NBA first teams at this point.
That's right.
It's early.
All-NBA
It's
first
early.
team?
It's early.
I thought he made first team last year.
Can one of you kind gents look this up while we're chatting here, because I can't. I got too many screens going. I want to say there was compensation involved when Jason went from the Nets to the Bucks, but I might be misremembering that. So I'm hoping somebody can look that up. And was there a second round pick in that
I
deal?
believe
Two
that's correct.
second-round draft picks, one in 2015, one in 2019.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder what those picks turned into.
Let me see.
Mark, can I make a observation
You can.
and answer it however you see fit?
You may.
If I'm the New York Knicks and I'm interested in head coaches, and specifically I'm interested in head coaches that are under contract, currently employed by teams, I would imagine there's quite a few coaches that kind of fit that description, including like Eric Spoelstra. But the entire league understands that Eric Spoelstra is not available, that Eric Spoelstra is not leaving the Miami Heat, that Steve Kerr is not leaving the Golden State Warriors, that, you know, JJ Redick, a much smaller pedigree, but, you know, probably isn't leaving the Lakers in his second season, etc. When they express interest in a couple coaches that are under contract, is it plausible whatsoever that there's at least an inkling that they think, well, if we express this interest and even those coaches under contract, that maybe there's some avenue for them to be available, or is it at least for something down the line?
It's hard for me to know, like, you're asking me to explain the thinking of the New York Knicks. Not the easiest question you've ever asked me.
For sure.
But I think what it does kind of lead us into what's so interesting about this. Look, was the firing of Tom Thibodeau an outright on the floor shock? No, it was not. There have been rumblings about Tibbs' job status all season long. I mean, the Knicks went 0-10 against the Thunder, the Cavs, and the Celtics during the regular season. There have been issues with this team throughout the season. The line Kenny Smith uncorked on TNT about Tibbs wouldn't play 9 guys in a baseball game. I mean, that's gonna stick. It's an all-timer line. But the timing so soon after the playoff elimination, that I think did surprise people. And when I started talking to people around the league after this happened, beyond the shock, the almost universal reaction that I got, no matter what team I spoke to someone from, almost everybody said, well, the Knicks surely have someone lined up. There's no way they're going to fire Tibbs, the most successful coach they've had in the 21st century, and not have his replacement set up. But all the early indications suggest that there is not someone lined up. Now, maybe the Knicks are going to surprise us. Maybe the Knicks want all of us, people like me, to say they have no plan, wait 3 days, show that they had a plan all along, and make us look bad. You know, they don't mind when the media looks bad. So I guess we have to allow for that scenario. But all the indications to this point is that there is not a locked in succession plan. And I think people find that very surprising.
And that includes what seems from my vantage point the most obvious name, Michael Malone.
Rick Brunson.
See, I here's the thing. There are some great, I mean, this season, think about the coaches who lost their jobs either during the season or after the season. Michael Malone, Taylor Jenkins, Mike Budenholzer, now Tibbs, Mike Brown. I mean, there are good coaches who are available right now, but almost every single one of them are seen as defensive minded or maybe on the rigid side, which, you know, these are complaints about Tibbs. So the thought, I think, with the Knicks is that they want some sort of offensive coach or coach known as more creative offensively. And that obvious candidate is not jumping off the page from the group of coaches who are available. And, you know, Jay Wright's another name that has been mentioned, but, you know, the messaging from Jay Wright has been consistent that he does not have interest in going to the NBA. I don't know Jay Wright well personally. I've only covered him in, you know, a couple USAB settings. I'm not plugged into the college game at all unless we're talking about Cal State Fullerton. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm a Jay Wright expert, but that messaging, it's been out there for so long that a lot of people in coaching circles think it would be hard for even the Knicks, even with their financial wherewithal, to lure Jay Wright out of coaching retirement, out of TV, to take on. I mean, that's the thing. The Knicks job, they've come out and said it. They are championship or bust now. I mean, you are not only stepping into one of the brightest spotlights in sports where every sneeze is second guessed, you're also expected to deliver a championship. So people are going to talk about Jay Wright, Dan Hurley. Like, I don't have a great feel for the college guys, but it's a hard job. It's a very hard job. Now, and this is some of the stuff that I think Jason Kidd is so underrated in this department. He is unruffled by the noise and the spotlight and all that stuff. He's already played in that market for so long as both a Net and a Nick. So I imagine that's another reason why he would appeal to the Knicks, because they know he knows very well how to work in that environment.
Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, more with our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, when it comes to the Knicks' interest in Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd, and if Kidd has interest in their job. We'll discuss it next on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, it's diehard time. You know what that means. You got to become a diehard. Scan the QR code beneath me, click the link in the description below, or go to alldlls.com, where for a small fee of, I believe it's just $4 a month right now, maybe $5. I don't know what it is. You got to go to there and find out. You can become a diehard. When you do, you get a free shirt. We got more than 40 shirt designs to choose from, and I've seen some specs lately. We got some good ones coming out, too.
Let's go.
We get some good ones coming out, too. And if stuff comes out that you like, but you've already gotten your free shirt, well, hey, what the heck? Well, if you're a diehard, you get a 20% discount on that stuff and on live events, too. And you actually have a chance to scoop up a bunch of free gear, because right now, there's only like 7 hours left to do this. It's the ball knower bonus. Who's going to win Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final? Also, who's going to win Game 1 of the NBA Finals? Stanley Cup Finals tonight. NBA Finals Game 1 is tomorrow. In order to play these, you go to our site, you activate that ball knower bonus, and then you can place a $25 or more order and predict the winner of the game, so either Game 1 of the Cup Final or the NBA Finals. And if you get it right, you get a bonus gift card worth 100% of your order. So you can go in and buy 3 shirts, and then boom, if you know ball, you get 3 more shirts for free. How great is that? We also got an event going on. Cowboys are going to Vegas. If you want to join them, you got to go sign up for that as well. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing trip. That is during basketball season, though. So we're going to be locked in with the Mavs. If you want to go to Vegas, though, watch Cowboys at Raiders Monday Night Football. Hey, this is going to be an incredible opportunity, so go check that out. You also get to join the DLS Discord. You also get to read the website, all the written stuff from Tim on the Mavs beat, and all our other folks on all the other beats. And you also get your physical diehard card. Folks, there are so many reasons to become a diehard. These are just one of them. You should go to Vegas again. I think you should.
That's a reminder for me that I need to put in my time off so I can go to the November 15th or the 18th.
Thank you for supporting us wherever you do. And I do want to close the loop on this. I hate leaving open threads. Jason Kidd was traded for 2 future second-round picks. One of them became the GOAT, Admiral Schofield. The other became Pat Connaughton. How about that?
Oh,
so
okay.
My starting point would be that 2026 first-round pick for Washington. Again, if it doesn't convey, it becomes a 26 second-rounder, 27 second-rounder. The Wizards are going to be bad for a long time. Those picks in the low 30s are very, very nice.
Wait, how did it become Pat Connaughton?
Isn't it Connaughton? Or is it
was on the Bucks, but the Bucks got the head coach, so didn't they send the second-round pick?
They got both. I don't know.
How did they get Jason Kidd and second-rounders that turned...
Oh, Pat Connaughton later got traded.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because you can understand how I was slightly confused.
He got confused very quickly.
The Bucks traded a second-round pick for Jason Kidd that later became a Buck.
That's right. That's
okay. As long as we're clear on that.
That pick had already been traded 3 times before that trade, and then he was traded to the Blazers, and then he was signed with the Bucks.
Wow.
Pat Connaughton he's had a long career.
Wow. That's right. I forgot he started off in Portland.
As we bring back in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, he calls dial up the Stein line at the Stein line, where the Knicks are reportedly interested in Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd to potentially be their next head coach. The question I have for you, Stein, as we finish up our show today, if approached, would Jason Kidd have interest in going to New York as their head coach?
I genuinely don't know. My instinct is if you're in his position, you would naturally listen to a team that comes after you. But, and I think Tim would attest to this because, again, these rumbles of Kidd looking around have been out there since the spring. And whenever someone has asked me, including Mr. Cato, I've said, I don't buy into them. I don't think he's looking to go anywhere else. I think he wants to coach this team. And that's why this is an amazing topic for us in early June when we frankly need topics. And it's obviously going to be a national topic because this is the Knicks. And now with Phoenix hiring their coach, the Knicks have the only coaching vacancy in the league. But, Jason Kidd just did a new deal with the Mavericks. He has 2 years left on an extension that he signed a year and change ago. So, like Tim, I know that chatter has been out there, but I have not given it much credence. I think Jason Kidd will be the coach when this team is in training camp in late September, early October.
Yeah, and from my perspective, any hesitation or any remaining doubt, which was always small, was just the fact that he has been doing media, that he has been open, that he has been willing to go talk about the kid from Duke, as he has loved to say. I think that is certainly significant and a sign and one, in a very specific direction of, his excitement for the future, of the team, of coaching Cooper Flagg. These are not things that he would have to do. So that has certainly stood out to me. And any lingering doubt that, I had or that was still going around in the league, to me, that once Jason Kidd started talking publicly about, the Mavericks' future to come and his excitement for it, it's really hard to view that and to, continue to think that Jason Kidd was, looking or as we lose Marc Stein to the darkness, there he comes back again. But yeah, very difficult at that point to start thinking that.
Mark, I'm afraid it says you've muted yourself.
He must have got a phone call that knocked him out, and now he's got to go back. We'll get Marc Stein back on the line here in just a moment. But
dude, the battle continues.
Yeah, I know. My favorite part was the look on his face when he realized that you said that he was muted. He was just like, here we go. As we walk down this road, then, with obviously Jason Kidd reportedly, the Knicks being reportedly interested in Jason Kidd, what could that mean for the Mavericks in terms of making sure that, hey, by the way, no, you're not going to get a chance to talk to him, but obviously this is now would be the second time a team would be reportedly interested in hiring Jason Kidd away. It seems like, as Bobby mentioned a little bit earlier, he is coveted in some respects when it comes to being a head coach elsewhere. If you're the Mavericks, how do you ensure that you continue to make sure that he is the guy going forward, given your situation?
Make the checks cash on time.
That's it. Just make sure that you got them locked up.
I mean, again, there's no security in coaching, so it's not like a team has to court a coach. Like, he works here, you're good. He's under contract. Like, you don't have to do anything to keep him happy. I mean, that sounds like heartless or whatever, but like, it's just the truth. Coaches can't demand trades. Coaches can quit. They're never going to do that. So it kind of
one
is
did
what it
here.
is. Sure, yeah, one did here, and it cost him quite a bit of money to do that. But you know what? Oh no!
And look, Kidd, famously, as we've covered many, many times on the show, he was hired by a committee led by Dirk Nowitzki. We've talked a lot about the changes.
He doesn't work here anymore.
It's very
Dirk
true.
Nowitzki? Yeah, no.
Casey Smith doesn't work here anymore.
Casey Smith was also on the panel, was also on the committee that chose to hire Jason Kidd alongside Nico Harrison, kind of a package deal. Jason Kidd and then Nico. I would not at this point view Jason Kidd as, old regime. I don't think he falls into the box of the mini exits that we've seen from Dallas.
We got our guy Marc Stein back on the line with us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast as we finish up here. What else is on your radar when it comes to not only this job, but over the next few weeks here as we move that much closer to the NBA draft? How quickly do you think the Knicks are trying to get this done as far as our next head coach, given the timing of all this?
That's the thing. We really don't know. I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of murkiness in the wake of this shock decision. But my main thing is that the call that just came in that knocked me offline, it's one of my best sources, and yet he always calls in the noon hour when he knows I'm doing the show. Uncanny. And why are there always technical gremlins that have to mess with me? Why?
I mean, is there something that you need to share with us since the call was so important?
No, I couldn't take the call. I hit stop. Why that mutes me, I have no idea. This self-Tony Reali button that's in the phone, apparently. I did was decline the call.
Well, Mark, you got to tell that source from noon to 1. They should be locked into DLLS Mavs podcast
That's
on
right.
youtube.com/DLS_sports. Like, get with the program, buddy.
I probably should have just taken the call, though, but we'll see what I miss.
Damn.
Wow.
Dude.
He said he was just going to bump us off.
I know it's early June and slow news time and all that stuff that you laid out, but like,
Don't make us chop
We
liver
chop-
already.
yeah.
Jeez, man.
we have feelings, Mark.
Adam Silver can wait.
You know what? What really is just, it's a shame that we didn't get this Knicks news while Jason Kidd was in studio so we could ask him.
Ooh.
Something tells
wow.
me something tells me that he probably wouldn't want to be in studio today to take these questions.
30 seconds or less. Are you excited for Team USA versus Team World in the NBA All-Star game next year?
No, I am not.
Ball knower.
Because A, it's not going to be the format you want. It's not going to be just Team World versus Team USA 12 on 12. B, as we've covered before, no one that you guys will ever meet loves the international game more than me, but you can't do NBA versus the rest of the world when there are only 125-ish rest of the world players, and that means nearly 400 guys born in the United States have to settle for 12 all-star spots. It's just not mathematically fair. It probably would be the best game. This format they're talking about, though, it's going to be some kind of weird 5-on-5, 8-on-8. It's going to, I guess they're going to try to emulate the Four Nations thing they did in hockey, but hockey is the NHL just has much more talent spread across various countries to do it. So I don't know what the exact format's going to be, but something tells me we will be bashing it when it happens.
Who would have the better team? Team USA or Team World?
Don't care.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
Like, you have
Initially, I'm voting Team World.
two of the best international players openly don't give an S about the All-Star game. Like, it doesn't matter. If they don't care about it, why should I?
The rest of the world's top 5, top 7, maybe even top 10 would be awesome, obviously. But do they have 12 guys who are as good as the best 12 Americans? The math is the issue here. The league knows the math is the issue, but they're grasping. They everything you can't fault them for trying. They keep trying and nothing is working. So they got to keep trying stuff.
Well,
Or
Tibbs-
just
It would
have
be
no
easier
All-Star
to do
game.
nothing. As Nico says,
Yes.
it's easier to just do nothing. Just don't do it. Just don't have an All-Star game.
Tibbs is
Have
available.
an
Have him
All-Star
coach
week.
Team World and just play the starting 48 minutes.
There you go. 48 minutes for Luka and Jokic. They're going to love that.
Well, we're going to let our guy Marc Stein teleport over to PHNX because they got
Yes.
some news they got to discuss. Mark, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
I will be back in studio tomorrow, hopefully a little less chaos. Talk soon, gents.
Bye, Mark.
That's our National NBA insider, Marc Stein. You can always dial up the Stein line at the Stein line. Appreciate our guy Tanner making us look good and sound good as always. Thank you, sir. That'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast today on this Wednesday afternoon. Make sure you download and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports here on YouTube. That is our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Curlo. That is our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all enjoy the rest of the day. Talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.